as we embark on another postseason with the Chicago Bulls, hoping that Artūras Karnišovas, the president of basketball operations, actually does something to push the Chicago Bulls further in the right direction. On today's episode, we'll talk about what the Bulls front office agenda should be this offseason and, of course, dive into the mailbag. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Sarah Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And what's the Bulls agenda this offseason, right? And the reason why I wanted to have this question is to talk about all the different possibilities and angles that the Bulls could take on this, and what is a major one that I don't agree with, right? So, of course, in this his postseason press conference, Artūras talked about development and talked about patience and the fans having patience with this team and with this front office to get to the place that they're trying to get to. He did talk about that they have prioritized acquiring players that are young but have some experience, right? In the Josh Giddey, with how young he is at 22 years old, but how long he's been in the NBA, right? Things like that. Even Jalen Smith, right? Another guy who's young, but still has been in the NBA for quite a while. Kevin Huerter could fit that bill at 26 years old. He's been around for a while as well, right? But still not a player that you look at and say is at the hill or over the hill, right? So it's those type of things. Is that the path that they're going to continue, is trying to acquire players that make sense in that, even though this offseason they don't have a lot of space in their roster, right? For all the Bulls fans that have talked about the Bulls being heavily aggressive, I always like to point to the Bulls are more than likely going to have one open roster spot this year unless major trades happen. But you got to keep in mind, with trades, you got to usually get a player back. You're getting something back, right? That's why it's a trade. So you're not usually opening up a bunch of space. So, one, the Chicago Bulls have 3 open roster spots. Those roster spots are created by Josh Giddey being a restricted free agent, Tre Jones being an unrestricted free agent, and THT also being an unrestricted free agent. Everybody else on this roster is under contract next season, right? So you assume Josh Giddey's coming back, and then even if outside of assuming anybody else is retained, you got a first-round draft pick that's coming in here that's going to take one of your guaranteed spots. Now, you have a second-round pick as well this year, but that second-round pick can be signed with a 2-way contract, thus maintaining another open roster spot. So as it stands right now, the Bulls have one open roster spot. Now, I know people have said, well, you can trade Vučević. Yeah, but you're trading Vučević. That's a $20 million contract. You look around the league, there's not a lot of teams that are set up right now to just absorb that contract in full. Now, maybe you can take a player back with less than that $20 million to save you some more space, but you have to take a player back as it stands now in most of the scenarios, even if you were to trade Vučević. I know people are going to say, well, trade Patrick Williams, Javon Carter, these players, right? The fact is that those players really have little to no trade value around the league, which then leads us kind of linking back to the article that we talked about yesterday, right, in which players that could be moved by the Chicago Bulls, being Vučević, Kevin Huerter, and Zach Collins. Now, why I would love to keep Zach Collins and Kevin Huerter on this team, we can't deny that the way that they played over the second half of the season, especially Kevin Huerter, may have some teams interested in acquiring him. Now, he has an $18 million contract, which is still fairly high, but can you use that to pair in a Javon Carter or something like that to create an additional roster spot? That's where it stands right now. That's why when AK said that they have plans for the summer of 2026, I said that makes the most sense because that's really where you're going to have some flexibility. Do not expect the Bulls to be heavy players in the free agent market. Now, they do have a mid-level exception, the non-taxpayer mid-level exception that they can use. They didn't use their biannual exception last year, so it means that they still have that available. It's just that once you do use it, you have to skip a year. You can't use it the following year. So they have potentially that. So they have cap space. So they still have money that they can use to get somebody if and need be, if they see a fit that makes sense, right? Now, those mid-level exceptions, I think those mid-level exceptions can only be at a max 3 years, right? With the second year or the third year being an option. So that goes into that. We know that he doesn't want to acquire long-term money, so they can avoid that there. And that's the thing. Now, in as far as Coby, right? And I think that this is a layered conversation that people I think try to make more simple. It has nothing to do with his play-in performance, right? No. For those that ask, the play-in one game is not going to impact a player's trade value that much. People think that it's not. Now, if it was like the finals or something, maybe, right? And I will say this as well, though. The stretch that Coby White went on, I like the hot streak that the Bulls finished the season on. I don't know if it positively impacts it as much as some people think either. So there's that combination between the two. You got to find yourself sitting between the two, right? And so now with that said, this goes into the Bulls do have to make a decision, though. Are you willing to give Coby the big money? If not, I do think that you have to research looking into him some, because here's the thing. He's a free agent at the end of the season. And if you don't believe that because he's going to go through unrestricted free agency regardless, more likely. That's probably a 98% chance that he goes through unrestricted free agency. If you feel confident you can re-sign him and you want to re-sign him, then okay, cool. You go into the season not worried about it. If there's any doubt in the Bulls' mind if Coby's the guy that they want to invest in, or there's any doubt that Coby is going to actually re-sign here as an unrestricted free agent, you have to, I think, do your due diligence and then look at something. Again, that has nothing to do with Coby as the player. That's just the business aspect, right? You got to look into that at least a little bit. Now, we'll see what happens there. Coby seems like a guy that's genuine about his love for Chicago and staying in Chicago, but you got to evaluate that some as well. And then there's the other part, right? The Bulls potentially trading for a star, right? Players that have been mentioned over the last couple of months is Domantas Sabonis. Zion Williamson has been talked about before. Of course, Giannis, even though that's built around a facade of a rumor that really has no legs at all, right? That's all there. And this is not the year to do that. And the reason why I say this is no knock on any of those players, because that's not what the segment is about. But if you go in too soon, you could find yourself right back where you were. And I don't mean by the same record. I mean stuck with a roster that you've now bet on that really in all reality you don't really know much about yet. And I think that's the thing that the Bulls have to evaluate here. And that's the thing that really good front offices will be able to do. You have to look at this and be able to say to yourself, all right, because of where this team is and what they showed last year, I want to see how much of that is the legitimate version of this team. And if they start off next season, let's say Coby and Josh Giddey and that chemistry is not there anymore, and they actually look like crap to start the season, that of course shakes your confidence in those players and who those players can be, right? And I think that's a fair statement to make. That's not anything that's necessarily bad. It's just real, right? And so you have to evaluate all of that. So no, I don't think this is an offseason where Domantas Sabonis, I was talking to the comments, somebody's like, the Bulls are absolutely going to trade for Sabonis this year. I'm like, they're not. They're not trading for Sabonis this year. AK's talked too much about maintaining their assets to go all in on the trade right now. And you would hope that they're not going to relive that same mistake. So I get why people say that. I get why people say, well, Zion, he could get out of that contract. Like, and if he's on, yeah, but like, they're not just giving Zion away. If that's what their goal was, they could have did that at last year's trade deadline. Now, there's a new GM. I'm not saying that they won't trade him. There's a new GM there, and I think the goal will be to move off of Zion. But best believe, they're not moving off of Zion for pennies, right? And I don't think AK is at a place where he's going to want to give up multiple future first-round picks again, even though Zion is younger, for a player that you're just not sure about, right? That can stay healthy as far as like if somebody can walk into the door and be like, I guarantee you Zion at least 65 to 70 games and healthy in the postseason every year for the next 3 years, you take that deal, right? But I don't know, that guarantee isn't there, and you can't bet on Zion's health. And we already got another player that we locked into an extension, right? Only 1 year, but still Zoe that you already can't bet on either, right? But to bring this all together to a close, what is the Bulls' agenda this year in this offseason? It's to continue to build. And that doesn't always mean making a bunch of moves. For some fans, they look at it, and if they want to see 12 to 15, that's exaggeration, 2 to 3 big trades every offseason, and that's just not going to happen. Or they want to see 1 to 2 big signings every offseason, and that's not a reality that's going to happen. But I do hope that the Bulls make the first thing that they need to get right is making a smart draft decision, right? That's what I want to see first happen there. Then you got the business to handle with Josh Giddey, and then depending on what else you do, like were you able to move a Vučević and not take much back, right? Were you able to move a Javon Carter or Patrick Williams or whatever else in some type of deal, Kevin Huerter, right? What did you do there? And based off that, I think then you can look at a little bit more flexibility. But you guys know, I'm always the guy that tries to be the realest here. I would love to push out clickbait videos like some of my contemporaries. They're like, oh, the Bulls are trading for the Bulls target number 1 this offseason. I don't do that because I look at the things that are realistic of happening, and then we talk about that. Does it mean that this channel doesn't get as much of the clickbait views as some of the other channels? Yeah, but integrity matters more to me than clicks of trying to get you guys and sell you guys on something that I think we all know is not going to happen. Just like during the season where everybody else, oh, we're going to blow it up. We're going to blow it all up. We're going to do all this. What did I focus on? Trades for Vooch, trades for Zach, one of which happened, right? I kept telling you guys for the last 3 years that the Bulls were never going to be the team that makes the subsequent moves to blow it all up, right? They'll make some smaller moves, and over time, gradually, things will change. You look at the Caruso trade, the DeMar move, the Zach LaVine move, not letting Andre Drummond go. Like, yeah, that happened, but they didn't do that, like blowing it all up at the trade deadline and getting assets back. Now, they should have, right? Because it's smart. And when I disagree with you guys, it's never to say necessarily some of y'all's ideas are crazy, but it's not to say necessarily that your ideas or thoughts are crazy. It's just that I know and I don't want to hype up a possibility of something that's not going to happen. Me and Von is one of the most I hold Von in so much respect. And what he does with the Hoops Legion podcast, like, they're amazing. They should have a lot more notice and attention on what they do than what they are getting, because they are amazing content creators. And Von is a very smart basketball mind, right? Very, very smart. But me and Von have had conversations. He bring up like trade. I'm like, bro, they're not trading for Sabonis. Like, I think it was Sabonis. Maybe it was Pat was KD. I think Von was Sabonis. So he'll be in the comment section correcting me if I'm wrong. But like, that's what that's the last thing I want to do here, right? And so even going into this offseason and staying daily, we'll comment on rumors and things as they pop up. But I'm always going to make sure I post it as a rumor, and I'm going to talk about the reality, what's the chances of it really happening, or if it's just a writer blowing smoke. Because that's the integrity that I want here at Chicago Bulls Central. I ain't got time for all the clickbait videos, and that type of content actually would be boring to me. But with that said, let's get into the mailbag, man. The most important part of any Sunday episode is the mailbag. Let's get into that. And the first one that we have, this one's from Josh.
What's good, Abe? Josh here. We're all devastated right now, I'm sure, and confused and lost. And I know this is insane, and I know you're always against it, but I'm genuinely curious, as someone with some kind of pull in this community, how do we protest this shit? How do we stop this? I know it sounds crazy. I probably sound like an idiot, but I'm just like, as a Bulls fan, I've been watching this shit for since 2010 now. And I'm lost. But me doing anything alone ain't gonna do anything. Any of us individually doing shit ain't gonna do nothing. What are we doing, man? What do we do? Where do we go from here? I know you don't got the answers, but I'm just curious on your thoughts. Appreciate you, Hayes. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for sticking with the goddamn team.
Protest. Here's the thing. I'm not against, like, I feel like fans have the right to show their discontent in any way that they shape, form, or fashion, whether that's protesting by not buying merch, whether that's protesting by getting a billboard, right? The problem is, you say you've been a Bulls fan since 2010. I've been a Bulls fan since 1986, right? I was born into this, right? That's it. There's some of the pictures when I'm younger. I'm watching Bulls games with my dad. I don't even know if I could talk, right? So I was born into this, right? And I know one thing about this ownership group. All that shit don't matter. And as many people are like, well, the owners, they need to sell. Jerry is never selling the team. Do you know that Jerry Reinsdorf told his kids, when I die, sell the Sox, don't sell the Chicago Bulls? The Reinsdorfs are probably going to own the Chicago Bulls for the majority of the rest of anybody's listening to this lifetime, right? That's why I don't do that, because I know this ownership group. And, you know, some Bulls fans like to think that billboard did anything. Let me tell you how much that billboard did, right? They didn't even fire John Paxson and John Paxson and Gar Forman. They didn't even fire them until almost 2 years after that billboard. And then do you know that even with that, when they fired those guys, John Paxson has still been on payroll the whole entire time? And do you know that when the new front office, AK and Eversley, took over, ownership tried to convince them to keep on Jim Boylan? That's how much that billboard changed. They didn't really want much to change. It took John Paxson to go to ownership and basically say, hey, I think we need to make a move here and make a change. We need some new eyes to really kind of guide this next phase of the Chicago Bulls. That's what it took. That billboard didn't do shit, right? And so I'm all for people that help and put that billboard up. That's great because that was a message of how, like, I think the thing is, it's two separate things here. I love fans that make sure they get the message out that they are unhappy. But I don't trust that ownership gives a fuck about that message, right? That's the thing that comes down to this, right? So, if fans decide to protest, not go to games, not buy merch, not do whatever, I'm never going to say they're stupid for not doing that. When I say that it's stupid and it's not going to have any type of effect, it's not because of the fans. It's because ownership doesn't give a shit. That's why I say that, right? That's why I say that. And I like I said all the time, I think the best option that we have for the Bulls to really be a franchise that wins at a high level is having somebody, whether it's a GM or it's a president, that cares more about winning than they care about anything else. And we don't have that. AK wants to be right. He wants to prove that he can write. He wants to be the smartest man in the room. Mark Eversley is just happy to be there. He doesn't want to talk to people. You know what? People crap on Jerry Krause, but you know what, Jerry? Now, at the end, he went left, right? That's the whole thing of you either die a hero or you live to see yourself long enough to see yourself become the villain. But what Jerry did, he cared more about winning than he did about being hated in Chicago, right? That's what he cared most about, and that's why the Bulls got 6 titles. Of course, Michael Jordan and Phil and all those guys, of course, all that together, but that's because Krause cared more about winning than anything else. He was fine being the most hated person in the city of Chicago as long as the Bulls were winning titles. Now, once that dynasty ended, he started wanting it to be about him, and that's where he went wrong at. But that was because he cared so much about winning for so long that at that point he was like, hell, I want this on me, right? I want this to be on me. So, it is what it is when it comes down to that. But I think overall, I support fans doing whatever they feel that they need to do. Bulls Fest this summer. Do you know how much it would be if we can get chance of Fire Acme going or something there? I mean, if that's what you want to do it, right? Don't disrupt as far as like, don't hurt people, right? Don't do anything that is harmful to the other Bulls fans that are there to enjoy it. But listen, do your thing. Do your thug thizzle. Let's just hope ownership actually at some point takes notice of it. But all right, let's keep moving. Let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Michael Korn.
Hey there, Hayes. Michael Korn here. I hope you're having a good Friday. Just listened to your breaking news about AK firing Pete Patton. What can you say? I just want to say, it's like when it comes to AK, hard to get behind what he does. I think we need him to have more luck than being smart, because it just seems like he builds sand castles in the air, and the owners live in them. But tell you what's really cool for me, being like a longtime Bulls fan. I was going to watch the game against the Heat. I watch games on League Pass usually, and it's like, man, the game's not on it. And so, I could have torrent the game, but I decided just do some exercise and watch the game. Having your channel on, you had Pat the Designer, Big Kev. And I gotta tell you, as a longtime Bulls fan, it was great, hearing what you guys had to say. And I felt like it was following the game right there. At the same time, following you guys this whole season, which has been a blast. Looking forward to what's going on, what's next, man. Hey, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Listen, the thing that you said in that I think stood out the most to me is more luck than being smart, right? That's what it's going to have to take for AK. Me and Pat have had this conversation over on Locked on Bulls. I truly do feel that you're going to see a completely different Artūras Karnišovas as far as aggressiveness on keeping the team afloat once we do have a superstar, right? If any of these players develop or he gets lucky in getting one, whatever it is, and they actually turn into a superstar or a high-level star, I think you're going to see a completely different AK. Completely different. I fully do believe that. But do we have enough time to wait until that magical thing happens? It's not like you get lucky and then you get smart. Is it really you being smarter? Is it just that you now have that focal point to build around and more people want to come to your team and they're willing to take less and you then start looking smarter, right? Is that what happens? It is what it is, man. It's unfortunate this is the place that we're in with this storied franchise, but it doesn't seem like it's going to change anytime soon. But more luck than being smart. That's a great quote. Great bar from Michael Korn there. Let's get to the next one, man. This one's from Josh, a different Josh. So this one's Josh in Arizona.
What up, Hayes? Chicago Bulls Central. This is Josh out in Arizona. With all the confusion and whatnot that there is to the end of this Bulls season, what I want to focus on after hearing your last video today, Saturday, about the names of surprising players that could be traded. I wanted to try and, you feel me, put myself in the mindset of maybe like Billy and AK on why they would leave somebody like Jalen Smith out of the rotation almost completely in the last like 20 or so games after Zach Collins went off when he first got traded here. I can understand that, but I don't think he was that good enough to completely leave Mr. Smith out of the rotation like that. So just to put some sense to it, what if with these names, with AK already having said that he was setting up, like trades for the offseason and whatnot, what if he already had planned Kevin Huerter and Zach Collins to be shipped off this offseason? With how they was playing, especially during the end of the season, I would think that maybe they could be thrown in a package or traded just by themselves for some draft capital or a young player, because of both Kevin Huerter and Zach Collins, they kind of went off towards the end of the season. So let me know your thoughts on that. I don't know, just to bring some sense to why they would leave Jalen Smith out. I mean, he's going to be here long term. They know he's talented. All right, just sit down the rest of the season, rest up that knee, rest up that concussion, and let the white boys go crazy. They're finna be out of here soon. I mean, I wouldn't mind keeping them. Kevin Huerter, I think we would keep over Zach Collins, but yeah, I think they could get some good trade pieces. So not that surprising, I guess. All right, have a good one.
Yeah, the not playing Jalen Smith thing was really weird. Like I said, I hope that we find out like maybe he tweaked his knee or something, and they just wanted to let him rest until the. See, I don't know, right? But are Collins and Huerter already in the plans to be shipped? Maybe, right? I don't know if I trust AK to have that level of forethought right now, but if he did, right? Let's just say that he did have that forethought. That was like he basically gave Kevin Huerter a chance to really up his trade value all in the second half of that year. So if that's what he was doing, then yeah, great, right? That absolutely could go far for you. So we'll see what happens there. But we'll see. We'll see. Like I think overall, like I think there are a lot more potential. Like they're going to be listening to deals. I just don't know if AK and Eversley are going to be aggressive about going out there and getting deals, right? So they're going to be listening to calls, and I think they're like they do all the time is listen to those calls, try to find the place that they have the value at, which doesn't always happen, and then make their move based off that. And I guess we'll see if they can be successful. Now let's move into this next one, man. This one's from Todd.
Yo, what's up, Hayes? It's Todd. In the season, calling you after the Artūras presser and the firing of Peter Patton. I was going to call a couple weeks ago to talk about maybe we got it wrong with Artūras. Maybe he just has an unorthodox style that we just can't see. Maybe he's some Jedi mind trick fuck that the millions of us don't understand. But after the firing of Peter Patton, I know you have talked about this ad nauseum, so I'm not expecting you to talk about it more, but I got to get my bars off. There is no maybe about this idiot. It is only his ego. That is what drives him. It reminds me, and I know this isn't a political show, so I won't bring it up any further, but it reminds me of another person in another office in D.C. It's all about him and his fucking ego. And he got one thing right in his career, and that is picking Joker in the second round. And now here we are stuck with him because of that. Now, he prides himself on, these players, we feel good about these players and we're loyal to this player. We're loyal to that player, Lonzo and others. But yet the one guy on our team in this organization that literally was improving player by player by player by player, he fires because of his fucking loyalty to Patrick Williams and because he's not a yes man to him. Oh my God, bro. Why are we subjected to this? Is it because we won 6 chips? I'm really starting to believe that. Is it a curse that we get these goddamn idiots and the ownership in charge of our team and coaching? What is it? What are we to do? Do we need to march? I have no idea. I live in Brooklyn, but I will be willing to fly to Chicago if that's what it takes to mob deep outside of the Berto Center or wherever the Bulls are now until they hear us and get rid of this goddamn clown and his clown fucking car. Because, bruh, I have watched this team since I was a baby. I saw the 6. I saw Jordan from beginning to end. I cannot take this any longer. And hopefully, sure, we get Rasheer Flemings or maybe we fall and, to 4 and Malawash or whomever, but that doesn't matter. It's still not sure what we do from this point forward just to talk basketball because he has now gotten rid of the one guy that has helped our team more than anything else on our team. Now, could there be another? Sure. I have no idea. I didn't know about Peter Patton before Peter Patton came along. But, what are we doing here? What are we doing? And I really need to have an answer because, I don't know where else to go. Seriously, do y'all? What's up? Let me know what you think. Peace.
Listen, here's the thing, right? You said that it's AK's ego. And that really spoke to me because it's like this. If you have ego and you ain't accomplished shit, that's crazy. You ain't won nothing with this team. What do you have to be an ego? But I don't want to even hear about Jokic. At this point, that was 10 years ago, right? You can't keep hanging your hat on something you were a part of 10 years ago. You can't do that, right? So if it is AK's ego, right, that's getting in the way of him and causing him to make some of the decisions that he's been making, if it really is that ego that's getting him there, we're in for, it's going to be ugly. This is going to be very, very ugly if that's the case, because if your ego's already getting in your way to where you're finding people like Peter Patton, keeping on, Billy Donovan, wanting to keep yes men around you, this is about to be ugly for the next 10 years for the Chicago Bulls. And that's all I can say to that. He ain't got nothing, not you, Todd. AK ain't got nothing for his ego to be being involved in. If your ego's getting in the way already, and you ain't done shit, you ain't even won a playoff series, man, listen, that's going to be dark. All right, but let's get into this last voicemail, man. This one's from Ricky.
Hello. Hey, how you doing? It's Ricky Carroll. I've been watching you guys all year. You and I had some conversations about a couple of years ago about what's going on right now. Hey, I'm sorry to inform you, bro, but as long as Billy the coach, no matter who they bring in, I'm quite sure you might agree with me now, they cannot win. I also mentioned when Patrick Williams, he got the Tony Snell syndrome. He don't really care, man. AK, remember I was complaining about him by picking Patrick Williams in the 4th when he didn't have to. He signed the man to a $90 million contract and he was hurt. Did not begin the season. I don't know what's on his mind, man. But he's kind of backwards. Billy, if you just really sit down and think about it, what that winning streak that they went on, Billy didn't have anything to do with it. Them guys played hard, played defense, and they got back in the game because they were scoring. It didn't have anything to do with Billy offense. Billy is a bad coach. AK is a bad everything, man, because he really don't know what he's doing. And Coby, they gave him the keys to the car, and he took the bus. He had the opportunity to shoot, and he didn't. He was worried about what Billy gonna say or what people's in the stand gonna say or on TV. These guys, man, they need a coach. And this thing of Peter Patton, that was just totally freaking ridiculous. I want to jump on the phone and say something real bad. I've been wanting to speak about what's going on with the Bulls, but Billy just makes me sick to my stomach. Remember I used to tell you how all he did was chew that bubble gum and sit on the sideline? He gets no respect from the referees. The Chicago Bulls get no respect in the NBA, period. So, I watched 2 games this year. And it's all because of Billy, not because they were losing. Billy just did enough for AK and them to hold on to his job, man. But brother, if you sit down and just think about it, he was not responsible for that winning streak. And then, once again, Vučević. If Miami had a plan to go to the basket because they know he wasn't going to jump. And the first 10 points, if you just step back and think about it, they went his way. All of them was right towards him. And I think he got 1 block or 1 reflection in the first minute of the game. And he didn't do a cotton picking thing after that. Well, they can't blame it on Zach. And, I wasn't a Zach LaVine fan, but he didn't have a coach.
See, this is the problem that I have with this, right? A, you said Coby didn't shoot. Coby shot. The problem wasn't that he didn't shoot, is he didn't make it, right? And you can't act like he didn't have the keys and actually had some of his best basketball in the second half of this season. But also, the thing why are you leaving this voicemail? You said you watched 2 games. See, this is the problem. Again, shout out to Ricky. I love Ricky. I love that. Like, Ricky is an OG, right? But to say that you watched 2 games and then to go on a 3-minute diatribe about what the state of the Bulls is when you say you watched 3 games, and to say that coaching had no part of winning, that's stupid. I'm sorry, that's just flat out dumb. Now, you can and this is the thing that is more so with the young people nowadays. So I'm surprised Ricky's the one saying this, that people think it's either all bad or all good. No, it's a lot more layered and colored than that, like life, right? Billy Donovan absolutely played a part into the Bulls' offense, and they're winning towards the end of the season. You cannot say that he did not. That team was operating on too many cylinders. They were operating as a unit. We saw off-ball actions that were operated great. That's coaching. That's not the players out there doing it off the love of just their own brain. There's too many moving pieces for that. That's stupid, Ricky. But you can also say that, hey, Billy Donovan isn't the guy because he's not good enough to get us over the hump, right? You can say that. People who feel like you got to make your point by trying to take away it actually hurts the point you're trying to make and makes you seem stupid. But then on top of that, you only watched 2 games. So how can you really talk about what this team has done? And you just openly admitted to watching 2 games. Watch basketball. Don't watch the stat sheet. That's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you ready if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.